Hi, everybody. This is SAAD. I'm back from SoCal, where, if you follow me, you know that I appeared on several shows. Rubin Report, sixth appearance. Then I appeared on a new show hosted by Greg Gutfeld. Then sixth appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. And then finally, I appeared a few days ago on Michael Shermer's Science Salon series. For those of you who don't know Michael Shermer, he's the original gangster. He's really the, if you like, the intergenerational bridge. Not to date him, he's still a vital, vigorous young man, but he's really part of the old guard of public intellectuals, you know, the Richard Dawkins and so on. But also, of course, he's a productive member of the newer generation of public intellectuals. So it was really great to appear on his show. That chat should be up soon, I would suspect in the next week or so. So overall, it was great. I also had the pleasure of having dinner with Mark Pellegrino. Some of you may know him. He's a well-known actor. And his lovely wife, Tracy. Also met up with Brian Alters, who is a professor in Southern California. We originally met when he was at McGill. I had visited his group. He's really an expert on the teaching of evolution. He teaches a course on Disney and Darwin. He certainly loves both Darwin and Disney, and he connects them in an interesting course. I met up with him and his lovely wife, Kim, who is a physician. So a lot of wonderful social meetings, a lot of professional meetings and shows, and then, of course, a bit of a break. I guess I also wanted to share with you a quick story that I briefly mentioned on my social portals. A story that just captures how just a few words of kindness can really add to the positivity in the world. I was at a supermarket in Southern California with my family, and the gentleman who was serving us stopped and began by saying, "He's not gay," and then proceeded to offer me all sorts of truly incredible compliments. I say this not to engage in humble bragging, but to simply point to the fact that men seldom receive any compliments on their looks, whether it be from other women, from women or from other men. And that's a shame because men certainly compliment women and women certainly compliment each other. So there is sort of a complimenting sisterhood, but there isn't sort of a bromance of compliments that flow from men. And it is nice. I mean, it certainly demonstrates that the person who's giving the compliment is sufficiently secure in themselves to say, "Hey, buddy, I appreciate the tie you're wearing. I love your suit." Or in the case of this gentleman, he was referring to certain physical attributes of mine. So, hey, get out there and compliment one another, spread positivity. And I guess the last thing I want to say is a Happy New Year to all of my viewers. I'm truly enriched by the fact that I've been able, with your help, to build such an incredible community of folks, all of whom are interested in science, reason, politics, and all of the things that we discuss on the SAAD Truth. As you know, many of us who provide content have been hit very hard by the Patreon boycott, and of course I understand why many of you wish to boycott Patreon. Many of us tried to then move our platform to Subscribestar, and then they were shut down. So at this point, you can certainly still support me on these platforms, assuming that Subscribestar comes back on. But you can also use PayPal. I don't have monthly setups right now, but you can certainly do one lump sum donations, or you can visit the SAAD Truth merchandising store, where there's all sorts of mugs and T-shirts and sweatshirts and so on that you can buy yourself, to self gifts or to others. Of course, you could support the show by subscribing to the channel, Make sure to also press the bell icon so that you receive alerts whenever I post a new show. And, spread the word. Let people know. Get them to subscribe. Get them to watch. Engage them. And remember, I always tell you this. Get engaged. Don't sit idly. Don't diffuse the responsibility onto the shoulders of a few to do the heavy lifting for the rest of you. Everybody has a voice. Everybody can get engaged. Even if your voice is small, even if you don't have much of a platform, you can affect change. And I guess one final point, if you are in the business of setting up a new year or if you like, proclaiming or establishing New Year resolutions for yourselves, here are some hints that certainly the research supports, and just anecdotally, I know that they work well. I briefly mentioned some of the stuff on Joe Rogan. Specificity matters when you set up New Year's resolutions. So, for example, if you say, I'd like to lose weight, that's not as good as saying, I'd like to make sure that every month I'm at least lighter than the previous month. So at least that gives you, a very exact objective to reach. So, for example, if you're going to an all-inclusive, all-you-can-eat vacation, saying I'm going to try to minimize my amount of food that I eat is not as good of a behavioral strategy as to say I'm never going to eat more than one plate. So again, specificity matters. So when Joe asked me, how had I lost weight, it's not rocket science. That's always how it works with me. When I'm held accountable, when there is clear monitoring systems, this is where I don't, sink into, gaining weight. So in my case, number one, I am accountable to the scale, which means basically that every Friday I get on the scale. I've gone years where I didn't get on the scale. Then I get on the scale and oops, I just put on 25 pounds without really knowing it too much. Well, if you get on the scale every week, well, if you're starting to go in the wrong direction, you can implement a intervention strategy right away. So number one, monitor your weight. Number two, in my case, what's really worked and has worked in the past is having a monitoring system of my caloric intake and expenditures via, in my case, I use myfitnesspal.com. And I really here have to thank my wife, who is very assiduous in keeping track of all this stuff. So I could know at the end of every day, every week, roughly how many calories I've eaten, how many calories I've exercised, so I could have a good sense. Well, this week I'm 6,000 calories down, and so I should have a rough idea of how much weight I've lost. Notwithstanding that, yes, it's not always a calorie in, calorie out calculation, but of course it is partly that. And so the bottom line is, if you eat less than the basal caloric requirements that your body requires in a given day, you're going to lose weight. If you eat more, you're going to put on weight. It is a homeostatic, if you like, threshold. So there you have it. I wish you all a fantastic New Year. May reason, logic, and science reign over all sorts of nefarious intrusions into our edifices of liberty, modernity, and logic and reason. Thanks again for all of your support, and I'll talk to you guys soon. I have several very, very, very interesting guests that I'm working on. Some of them you may not know too well. I always try to look for new voices to promote. So definitely some really interesting thinkers that I have in line for next year's SAAD Truth. Thanks, everybody. Have a good year and get out there and enjoy life. Cheers.